thunderbird creates not just thunder with its wing flapping, but lightning bolts which it casts at the underworld creatures. So while it's flapping its wings, it's creating thunder, but it's also shooting lightning bolts at the underworld creatures below them. Now, thunderbirds that are depicted in the X shape in this is a tradition that usually seen, and it's also seen as a spread-eagled bird, but it's also common with the head facing forward, and this presenting an X-shaped appearance overall, basically. So the head's facing forward, and it's a spread-eagled bird. You know what I mean? And it creates kind of like an X shape that goes with it. Now, the Ojibwe version of the myth states that the Thunderbirds were created by Nanabazu to fight the underworld spirits. Thunderbirds also punish humans who broke moral laws. The Thunderbirds lived in the four directions and arrived with the other birds in the springtime. In the fall, they migrated south after the end of the underworld spirit's most dangerous season. Now, the Menominee of northwest Wisconsin tell of a great mountain that floats in the western sky on which dwell the Thunderbirds. They control the rain and hail and delight in fighting the deeds of greatness. Now, they are enemies of the great horned snake and have prevented these from overrunning the earth and devouring humankind. They are messengers of the great sun himself. Now, the Thunderbird motif is also seen in the Sioux-speaking peoples, which includes tribes traditionally occupying areas around the Great Lakes. Ho-Chunk tradition states that the man who has a vision of a Thunderbird during a solidarity fast will become a war chief of the people. In Algonquin images, the X-shaped Thunderbird is often used to depict the Thunderbird with its wings alongside its body and the head facing forward instead of in profile, so instead of sideways, I guess. Now, the depiction may be stylized and simplified. The headless X-shaped Thunderbird was found on an Ojibwe Medwewin disc dated to 1250 or between 1250 to 1400 CE. In an 18th century manuscript written by the namesake grandson of Governor Matthew Mayhew, the Thunderbird pictograms varies from recognizable birds to simply an incised X. American science historian and folklorist Adrian Mayer and British historian Tom Holland have both suggested that indigenous Thunderbird stories are based on discoveries of pterosaur fossils by Native Americans. However, it has also been noted by tribal historians despite variations. Now, much indigenous references are verbal and difficult to reference. The typical design elements of the motif within different tribal groups across the continent appear distinct from the makeup of the suggested prehistoric flying reptile, such as eagle or reptor, like avian feathered wings and tail, along with a vastly different head shape, perhaps with the exception of some Pacific Northwest imagery. So basically, what's being said there is, even though they're trying to make this connection with the idea that the Indians were taking reference off of fossils that they themselves had found of dinosaurs, that the actual way that the dinosaurs look didn't match up with what the lore of the Thunderbird actually describes it to be. So, at least that's the way I take it. Now, that is the story of the the Thunderbird that I was able to pull up. Now, there's also something that is interesting that I did want to go into before I get into Quetzalcoatl. And this has to do with a place here in the United States. It's called the Serpent Mound. Now, a long time ago, I used to watch I used to watch a show. It was called Leak Project, and it was a pretty good show. And dude was on there, and he was on one of his episodes. He was visiting the Serpent Mound, and I thought that was pretty cool because he went over it with a drone and took freaking video of it over high up in the air, and it's pretty good footage. So if you guys want to check that out, I'd suggest going to Leak Project and maybe looking it up. It's a pretty good video. He did a real good job on that. So with that being said, I'm going to read some stuff about Serpent Mound. I got this off of Ohio History.org. So this is what they have to say about the history of Serpent Mound. Now, Serpent Mound is an internationally known National Historic Landmark built by the ancient American Indian cultures of Ohio. It is an effigy mound, a mound in the shape of an animal, representing a snake with a curled tail. Nearby are 3 burial mounds, 2 created by the Adena culture between 1800 BC and 100 AD, and 1 by the Fort Ancient culture between 1000 AD and 1650 AD. Thousands of years ago, native Ohioans populated the landscape with mounds and massive earthworks. In the late 19th century, Harvard University archaeologists Frederick Ward Putnam excavated Serpent Mound but found no artifacts in the serpent that might allow archaeologists to assign it to a particular culture. Based largely on the nearby presence of Adena burial mounds, later archaeologists attributed the effigy to the Adena culture that flourished from 800 BC to 100 AD. This theory on the site's origin was accepted until a 1991 site excavation used radiocarbon dating to determine that the mound was approximately 900 years old. This would suggest that the builder of the serpent belonged to the Fort Ancient culture between 1000 and 1500 AD. In 2014, another team of archaeologists presented new radiocarbon dates for the serpent, suggesting that it was built by the Adena culture at around 300 BC. More work is needed to clarify the age of Serpent Mound. The significance of Serpent Mound and other ancient Ohio earthworks has generated international attention. In 2008, Serpent Mound and 8 other Ohio American Indian earthworks were selected by the United States Department of the Interior for inclusion on the United States tentative list of sites to be submitted to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, for inscription on the prestige World Heritage List. If it is eventually inscribed on the World Heritage List later this decade, Serpent Mound will join the ranks of the pyramids of Egypt, the Great Wall of China, Pompeii, Stonehenge, and the Taj Mahal, all of which are World Heritage sites. World Heritage status has the potential to elevate local and international awareness about the site's value, further encouraging communities to protect and invest in its preservation, and increase potential beneficial tourism to the site. So the rest of it goes on to say pets are welcome, and the Serpent Mounds is managed by the Ohio History Connection. So that is a very interesting story right there when it comes to Serpent Mound, because this is a huge, huge mound in the shape of a serpent in Ohio that is, I mean, it's just completely amazing to look at and to read about. And this goes back to what I was talking about with the connection between the eagle, or the bird, and the serpent. And this is scattered all across America and into Canada, and it goes from there to Mexico as well with the Aztecs. We were just talking about that with this is Dory D. Me and Bob Dub were just the other day whenever I was on one of their streams, and I think it's pretty cool, how that's all connected with even the Aztecs, with the eagle at least. And then you go even farther with the episodes that we've done recently, where we go back all the way to the Sumerians, and we discuss, the bird reptile connection and the symbolism, and how it's still here today with us in today's world. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, let's see here. Now that we are done with that, I think we should go on to Quetzalcoatl, and I will end the stream after that. So we have Quetzalcoatl, and he's a deity in the Aztec culture and literature. Among the Aztec, he was related to wind, Venus, sun, merchants, arts,